Hello there, welcome to another video here on this Esoteric Circle YouTube channel. I'm Pete Haskins, sitting here in the sunroom at Menominee Falls, and just a beautiful, beautiful day. Tomorrow is Thanksgiving, and I just wanted to wish you a happy Thanksgiving wherever you are at on your journey. You are important to me, you are important to everyone on this channel, and you are important to the world. And it's wonderful having you here with me. We're going to be talking about friendship today and how love overpowers separation. I'm going to be talking about this through some the interviews that Bob Colson had with Charles Ashanin, and going to be bringing in Saint Theophan the Recluse in terms of how we raise children. So if you are someone who has ever gone through a divorce and had children involved in that, and if that's been part of your experience, as it has been mine, I think you will enjoy listening to this discussion. So it's great having you here. Blessings to you. I have a notebook here. This is one of the most important notebooks I have. It has all kinds of stuff I've been jotting down for years and years, and one of them is a section here where I've jotted down notes from the discussions, the interviews that Bob Colson had with Charles Ashanin right before Charles passed away. And there's one in particular from December 10th of 1999, and he talks about the importance of friendship and loyalty. If you knew Charles, you knew how important it was to have loyalty within friendship, and that he could trust you. That was an enormous part. And in this one section, he talks about how love overpowers separation, and how love is this power that unites us, because separation is this passive element. And you know, in the law of three, you have to have something that is the equilibrium, is the thing that balances out this positive and negative, and you have to have an equilibrium, and you have to have something that unites us, right? That brings us back together. And it is love. Love is this power. Love is this energy. And in someone like Pierre Teilhard de Chardin, in his theology, love is an actual energy. It creates the noosphere that surrounds us, not just from cell phones and electronics that surround the earth through satellites and all this stuff. It is an energy. It is a power. Love is a power. Now, one of the ways that I am very interested in this is because when I went through a divorce, I was in my early 30s, and my son, Dylan, was about 18 months old. And that was extremely difficult for me. And one of the hardest parts for me, and maybe some of you can relate to this, was when I would have to take him to his mom's, and I would have to let him go and take him to wherever we were meeting, you know, and put him in the car seat and let him go. And then I would come back to an empty house. And it was such a struggle for me to accept that, and to live within hope. You know, where's the hope in that when there's separation, when you can't see them? And I knew that his mom was taking care of him well, and she loved him, and I knew he was safe. So there was never anything like that going on, but that is possible. And I know some of you have to go through that. But what do you do in the midst of that fear? What do you do in the midst of losing hope? What do you do in the midst of anger? What do you do in the midst of all these negative emotions which surround something like that, when you're separated from someone and you don't know how they're doing? You don't know if they're safe. You don't know what's going to happen. What can you do? One of the most important books that I discovered through my interactions with Charles and with Ted Nottingham and then subsequently with Robin Amos was the introduction to Saint Theophan the Recluse. And in this Path to Salvation book, which is, I highly recommend this on your journey, The Path to Salvation by Saint Theophan the Recluse. I found a little book, I think it was on lightandlife.com. A little plug for Light and Life there. It's an Orthodox website. They sell icons and books and all kinds of awesome stuff. But there's this little book. It's basically a chapter from Path to Salvation, and it's called Raising Them Right. And I use this as a manual. I use this through that divorce and through raising Dylan in those early years. I use this as a how-to. And what he does is he talks about how to create sacred space. So if you're getting anything out of this video, that's what you can do to help your children when they're not there, is help them when they're with you, and create sacred space when they're in your environment, when they're in your home, that you can have control of. And this creation of sacred space does something. What it does is it slows down the influences, the negative influences, what we call in the fourth way the A influences. So it slows them down. And these influences can be called sin, the desires of the flesh, or negative emotions, like what we've been talking about, this anger, this fear, jealousy, confusion, all of these negative emotions. It slows them down. The sacred space slows them down, and it separates them out when it comes toward you. It separates them so that you can better discern what you need to keep and what you need to not keep. These thoughts that you have, some of them are yours, some of them are not yours. So whatever is acceptable or unacceptable to your psyche, it separates those, it slows them down. Okay, this is a big deal. So in your home, what you do is you allow this sacred space for your child or your children. And it allows your child, as they're being nurtured by you while they're with you, to go out there, and that energy carries through with them when they're away from you. Now, one of the things that he talks about here is baptism. Baptism is a huge, huge part of Orthodox Christianity. Infant baptism, okay? And he talks about this as being a grace that descends upon the soul of an infant. And here I am quoting, and produces in it exactly the same result as if its freedom had participated in this, but only on the condition that in the future the infant, who is not then aware of himself and did not act personally when he comes to awareness, will himself willingly dedicate himself to God, will receive out of his own desire the grace which has shown its activity in him, will be glad that exists, will give thanks that this was done for him, and will confess that if at the moment of his baptism understanding and freedom had been given to him, he would not have acted otherwise, that he did act and would not have wished otherwise. For the sake of this future free dedication of himself to God and of the coming together of freedom and grace, divine grace gives everything to the infant, and even without him it produces everything in him that is natural for it to produce, with the promise that the essential desire and dedicating of himself to God will be performed without fail. And then he goes on, and thus through baptism, get this, the seed of life in Christ is placed in the infant and exists in him. But it is though it did not exist. It acts as an educating power in him. Spiritual life conceived by the grace of baptism in the infant becomes the property of the man and is manifest in its complete form in accordance not only with the grace, but also with the character of the rational creature from the time when he, coming to awareness by his own free will, dedicates himself to God and appropriates to himself the power of grace in himself by receiving it with desire and gratitude and joy. So basically, the baptism is so important because it plants that seed, so that later on when he or she are adults, they can make this decision on their own, but it's already there. Then you place icons around. You involve them with visually seeing the images that the saints have produced through these paintings. Putting icons. I have icons up all through my house. I've given each of my children their own personal icon, and they understand how important that is. And then there's also something else. This is my favorite part. Can you tell I'm excited? This is awesome. Some of you have been real interested in this. This is the guardian angel. Within that physical space, that sacred space that you're creating through the icons and through the baptism and the seed of grace that is planted and is surrounding and everything, the A influences are slowed down. There's also something else that happens. Guess what it is? The guardian angel. So he writes this regarding the guardian angel. Behind this visible protection, there is an invisible one. The guardian angel placed by the Lord to protect the child from the very minute of his baptism. He watches over him and by his presence invisibly influences him, and when necessary inspires the parents to know what they should do for a child who is in danger. So, according to the Orthodox faith and according to a newly sainted Saint Theophan the Recluse, these are real. These are real angelic, invisible entities that are assigned to us the minute we are baptized. And they are there to protect us from the dangers of the A influences. And they are there to help us slow down and allow for the grace that has been planted within us to grow as a seed has been planted. This is amazing stuff. This is a reality that I get. I understand this. This is real stuff to me. This is a reality in my life in terms of a guardian angel in the lives of everyone in my family. These guardian angels are real, and they're present, and they're functioning, and they're assigned to everyone. And we have to tap into this. But if you are a parent and you are fearful of how your child is, their safety and how they're doing, there's something that you can do. There are many things that you can do. Let me just finish with this. Theophan writes this. But all these strong protections and these powerful and active inspirations can be dissolved and made fruitless by unbelief, carelessness, impiety, and the bad life of the parents. This is because the means mentioned here are either not used or are used not in the proper way. Here, the inward influence of the parents on the child is especially important. It is true that the Lord is merciful to the innocent, but there is a tie which we cannot understand between the souls of the parents and the soul of the child, and we cannot define the extent of the influence of the former on the latter. In other words, if you feel helpless, hopeless, and you feel like you have no control over the situation, especially when that child or children leave your sight and you have to go home and you have to try to get to sleep, knowing that you don't know where they're at and what's happening to them, there are things which you can do. Icons, baptism. Remember, the baptism opens up the guardian angel, and creating an environment within your home, creating some type of regiment there, where when you sit down at the table, as you pray, the things you do before you go to bed, a very structured life, a very structured a type of lifestyle for you that's not chaotic. There's so many things that you can do to help slow down the influence and help empower them and help power them up with this energy of love, so that when you are not with them, you are loving them, and that they are energized and protected, and that guardian angel is there with them. Love is greater than any separation. Love is greater than any separation. If there's any message of the cross, it's that love overpowers that separation, especially this physical separation. Use this separation as a time to pray for them and to create this balance, create this equilibrium when there's something that is chaotic and is out of your control. Allow love to come in and balance your life out, and love those kids. Don't hate your ex. Don't hate the ex, your ex-husband, your ex-wife. Don't hate them. You are called to love them both. Doesn't mean you're getting back with them, but you have no right to hate them. You have no right to hate them. If you're going to love your kid, you're going to have to love your ex. That's my experience. Doesn't mean love in the sense of marriage, but you have to love them as a human being. You cannot hate them. And if you have that hatred in the mix of all this, just like Theophan said, hey, if your inward life as a parent is all a mess, there's no amount of icons or no amount of guardian angel help that's going to overpower that. You have to be a part of this too. And you have to allow the love that you have for your child to overpower anything that's going on in your court system, with your divorce, with the finances that are going on, all that. You are called to love them both. You are called to love them both. Blessings to you. There's hope. There's hope. There's hope. Love overpowers separation. Blessings to you.